Hello, everybody. Welcome to our stream. I'm joined by some amazing guests here today. First of all, my name is Joe Carlson, and I'm a developer advocate and data engineer working for Tinybird. But more importantly, I am joined by the fabulous Marc, the director of data from Factorial, and Diego Rama from AWS. First of all, welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
This
you.
has
Thanks
been
for having me.
a long time coming. And surprisingly, this is the first time the three of us have been in the same room together. I've been looking forward to this for months.
Yeah, me too. Since we started to talk about this event, I think like 2 months ago, we've been working a lot to put everything together. And counting on Marc is like amazing, right? To have a voice of the customer like telling us the whole thing is great.
Yeah,
looking forward.
I totally agree. Marc, you're the star of the show here. I'm like so excited to hear about the work you've been working on recently.
Yeah, let's see. A lot of hype. So let's see if I can keep it up.
I'm sure we'll keep expectations. We'll keep them low. But I'm sure they're gonna be great. So first of all, before we jump into our plan for today, I just want to kind of go over the ground rules with the audience and with you guys, just kind of make sure we're all on the same page here. But this is a live stream, of course. People who are joining us, feel free to jump in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, anything that's going on. We'll be answering questions throughout the hour, and we'll also be having time at the end to handle Q&A from everybody in the audience. Today, we're going to be covering real-life use cases for building up data architecture, real-time data analytics architectures using AWS, Confluent, and, of course, Tinybird. I think it's helpful to see how to build something or like how other people have built it and the types of problems they've run into while evaluating other architectures, building up their existing one, and what problems it actually solved for them. But yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else you guys want to cover today? We'll be hearing from Marc and kind of their journey. We'll be hearing a little bit from Diego, and then we'll be doing I got a snappy little demo, I think, at the end that we'll be kind of tying everything together with. But sounds I think cool. That's about it. Okay, cool. I think let's just get started. We'll be hopefully hitting this we'll be wrapping up here in an hour for everyone who is joining us. But Marc, do you want to kick us off here? And
yeah, absolutely. Let's get right in. Let me know when you see the screen.
You're up.
Awesome. So, hi, welcome everybody. I guess there's few things that haven't said about me. So basically, my background is data engineering. I've been a consultant and talking and developing data platforms for quite a few years now. And I had the pleasure to work with companies that bought other companies. So, for example, here in Spain, we have Adevinta, used to be Shipstead, that bought the major marketplaces here. So, like if you want to find a job or a new car or a home, this is where you go. Same thing for mobilities, right? So we here in Europe, we know Europcar for our vacation rentals, but they have been buying for the last 5 years new mobilities, things like scooters in the city, things like scooters and other like hourly rentals, things like that. And same thing for Mango and different type of clothing lines. So what I become an expert is how I can create a data platform that leverage all this data that comes from different sources to put it in a single place to create this added value. And from time to time, I speak in meetups and some other webinars like this one. So today, I'm super excited because I want to mention one thing that usually people don't know about me, which is I love finding pain. And to explain a little bit more about this, I need to introduce my current employer, which is Factorial. Every single one of you starts the day with a purpose. Some are more selfish than others, but we all got one. And assuming that where you live, you don't have to wake up in the morning and go hunt for this survival, and probably your neighborhood are pretty safe. The thing that you require to fulfill this purpose is this sense of belonging. You can think of this as your companies. The problem is every single person that you add to this equation to help you fulfill this purpose gets more and more complex. In fact, it gets factorial number complex. And this is a number that I'm fascinated with because it starts pretty slow, right? But the more you add to the equation, the faster it grows. It even grows faster than exponential. But another particular thing about this number is that it finds this kind of patterns, right? It tries to find the order in the chaos. And this is exactly what we do. We try to find the patterns that occur in every single company, from the freelancer that hires another person and starts complicating the equation, like things like managing time and paying employees and uploading your new contracts. The thing is, we just started, right? The amount of pain that we have solved is just a little fraction of all the companies need to go through. And this is why I say that Factorial has been the most complex domain that I have worked with. The team has been doing an amazing job from 2017, right? Trying to go and capture the process, right? To get it out of the Excel and put it in the cloud, put it in a safe place, and make it automated. But what we want to do now, the next phase for Factorial, is allow managers to make these smarter decisions, right? So they can run their business in autopilot and go back and focus on this, creating this unique value, the reason that you started your company, which is your true purpose. One thing that blew my mind, and that it was a concept that put all this together, is this data divide, right? This concept of Shamak, the inventor of the data mesh, that explained us that usually data is divided between two planes. One is the operational plane where all the transaction happens, right? And this is what makes you run your business. But there's this other plane, this analytical plane, where all these decisions are made and that allow you to optimize your businesses. And for us, we can see clearly examples of one and the other. And in the middle, connecting all this, we have our beloved data pipelines, right? Our data platforms that we build to connect these worlds. Let's look back at the example, and let's do an example of exactly what I'm saying. Let's look at time. I'm managing time, specifically time off, which is basically a domain that most of you, even if you don't use Factorial, which you definitely should, you might be familiar. So let's say that me as a manager, I'm going to create a vacation policy. Okay, I'm going to create a policy, unlimited days for my employees. Amazing. Then my employees can go and request a holiday. And for example, if I have a woman in my team and goes into maternity leave, I can accept this maternity leave. Or if I'm feeling that I'm a jerk today, I'm going to decline all Christmas leaves because I want everyone working here. All these are operational capabilities of a domain. But there are other types. Things like, let me understand what has been the leave history of my employees to see if I can detect a trend of a burnout. And then my employees are very likely to leave the company in the next few months. Or things like, how can I compensate for extra time work? And actually, this example of overtime compensation might come from another domain, which is the time tracking domain that makes you clock in when you start working or clock out when you finish your shift at the restaurant. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the most important thing is to define what's the domain boundaries. What is the context that you need to set in order to operate? And there's a few things that you can do, right? There's some initiatives or trends like implementing these trendy data fashion and creating these flashy data products. Today, probably it's not the day where we are going to deep dive into this, but just as a quick refresher. So data mesh talks about domain ownership and creating data as a product by using a self-serve data platform that is governed in a federated way. And we do this from the strategic, this DDD, domain-driven design, but we also do it from the sociological point of view and from the technical point of view. But if you like pictures rather than charts, this is how I like to see it. So we have been creating the most monolithical of all architectures, which is our beloved big data platforms. And this actually doesn't resemble how my company operates. A data mesh with the different domains that you see in different colors, interacting with each other, sharing these domains, right? And creating these data products is actually how Factorial operates. And if you like this concept, I cannot recommend you more to go into these books. The data mesh book with Shamak, this is basically, it's a little bit of fairy tale. It tells you like how it should be, but it's super interesting. And the streaming data mesh is actually very good implementation using Confluent, and actually Confluent sponsored this book. So reach to the guys in Confluent or Tinybird on Amazon, and probably they will send you a free copy of this book. Let's now deep dive in how we actually build user-facing data products here at Factorial. So every single conversation that I have with my engineering team, I ask them to evaluate a possible solution or iteration over 4 dimensions. The first one is freshness. So it really doesn't make sense to try to build these user-facing data products if data is few hours late or even days, right? I want something that is refreshed in seconds. For us, a healthy data product is a data product that is refreshed in 60 seconds or less, like a minute or less. One concept that really helped me develop this is what we call the Kappa architecture. The Kappa architecture, basically, it's a way to process in a single way all data, no matter if it's streaming in real time and historically, which means it allows you to do things like update the data product in real time, but also reprocess it if you have it. The way we implement it here at Factorial is we have a MySQL, right? We have a database for our transactional operations, and we capture the events using the Bethium CDC. And we send it to Confluent, right? We send it to a Kafka topic. And this Kafka topic, it eventually ends in a Delta Lake table that is stored in S3, and that we can query it using Athena, our federated query engine that allows you to build some insights. We have a redundant layer where we extract from time to time, if not mistaken, 4 times a day, we terabyte this data, and we make sure using upserts that this data has all the history, has the same schema, and you can use it to do any model on top of that. And this is actually what we call the bronze layer. The second thing that I ask my team is to evaluate is latency. What is going to be the response time of that endpoint, of that data product, if you are putting it directly in front of the user, right? As part of your app, as part of your website. So for us, a healthy endpoint is one that is responding in 50 milliseconds or less. So it helps to think of this as a REST API as a service over your data products. So expanding the previous architecture, we created this duality back into Confluent, right? So for each data table that you have processed and analyzed and created a model on, you now synchronize it back into Confluent. And when you want to do internal facing analytics, for example, we don't like to spend more money than we have. We have Apache superset that using Athena can query any model that the teams have created. But if I want to put that in front of the user. I need to materialize that data in order to create this REST API and these queries that I pre-process. So we send this information from Confluent into Tinybird and allows us to create these amazing user-facing data products. In the picture, we have the financial insights. So basically, if you put all your information in Factorial, we will be able to tell from a financial point of view how you're doing, how is your team growing, and very useful information. And this is what we call our gold layer. The third thing that I asked them to evaluate is cost. Okay, this is what is making Factorial scale. This is the next version of Factorial, but is it affordable? Like, will the ROI really be positive? So we are able to do it at a very flat, or it goes up with adoption, but it's not crazy, right? So we are able to do it under $250 per day, which is a random number because you don't know the scale of Factorial. It can be completely different for your specific use case. But for every product that we sell, we can attribute it and distribute it over this cost. And what allows us to do this is applying this dry principle, right? Do not repeat yourself. We have been doing this in software for years. Why not do it in data? So the way that it looks, the way it connects the previous architecture is that we have these Delta Lake tables that are very easy, very manageable using S3. And we process it, and we build this kind of a tree, right? Where we reuse some concepts in creating data products of data products. And to be honest, you can do this in many ways. You can do it using Databricks Delta Life tables. You can do it using Confluent KSQL or the new Flink feature. We decided to do it probably the Amazon open source way. But basically what it's doing is populating every single change that occurs transactionally throughout the data lake. The last thing, and probably the most important thing, is developer experience, because nothing will make the teams adopt this if the developer experience is bad. And the best way to get closer to them is to get closer to their dev cycle. They already have this way of working, and we try to mimic this. So, for example, one of the first things that I did at Factorial is get rid of this development staging integration environments. We have a production environment, and then we work based on branches. So anyone in the team goes, creates a branch, do their changes, test it, merge it, moves on to the other thing. And this is extremely important, because if you want this to be adopted by the teams, they don't care about your E and T and L. They only care about sending data end-to-end and building these features, these capabilities that allows them to move the business forward, to create impact on more and more users. And there's some things that you want to be reusable, like probably extracting and loading the data, but the transformation is something that you want the teams that have this knowledge, that are producing the data in the first time, to be the ones that are changing this. So it's super important to lower the barrier. So if you are able to do this, you can see how the different domains start creating these data products. Some of them feed off other information. So, for example, you create a contract, and then you use this contract to record if you how many hours are you supposed to be working, and then how many hours have you been working, and then use all this information to create your next payroll cycle, right? And the cool thing is that they only have to work or to worry about the transformation, the logic part. Everything else is handled by the platform with my team of data infra engineers. But there are not really the tools out there to achieve this in an easy way. And we needed to go back, right? So the first thing that we did is, how we can design this for developers to go from production, right, to consumption, not the other way around, the way dbt and the other analytics framework work, where you go from consumption, you know what you want to display and how the model needs to look, and you go and ask back to data engineers to put that data, and you ask the teams, okay, where should I find this field? It doesn't need to be reversed. So one thing that we did is get inspired by dbt, but offer to the teams a template of analytical microservices that contains 3 files. Basically, a configuration file that reads which data table, which Kafka topic are you going to read, how the transformation looks in plain SQL, and then a set of contracts, right? A set of checks that define how the schema should look, what happens if the data is going to drift, and be on top of that. The second thing is simplified reads and writes, right? You don't want for them to worry about this, but also every transformation. So what I'm trying to do is lower the entry barrier. How I can make the teams that work as a full stack to do all this data transformation without having a PhD. So we made it super easy. Read and write from whatever you want, CSV, JSON, Parquet, Kafka topics, whatever you want, but offer a catalog of data recipes, what we call ops, operations, that modify the data. So for example, we paired every single one with a use case, and teams just add a filter operation on top of your sources if they want to build an incremental load, right? So instead of reprocessing all the data all the time they want to update it, they just add this operation, and they start working in an incremental way, which is a concept that data specialists, we use it all the time. The third thing that we did is how can we make this switch between streaming and batch happen magically? And actually, it's not magic. The bronze layers and the delta table that is get updated it's really what powers all this. But basically, what we try to do is, can we make stateful stream processing just a commodity? And this is amazing because it allows you to create data products in batch. You test it, you make sure that this is exactly what you want, and when it's about to run it in production, you just run it in streaming mode. And you, after a month, decided that, oh, I fucked up, I made an error, this is something that I need to reprocess. No problem. Run a full historical refresh in batch, reprocess everything, and move on. This is like reprocessing historical data in Kappa architectures is a great pain, and this is actually how we solve it. The fourth thing is that everything should be a CTE, a common table expression. And this is probably a personal battle against Jinja and against putting bandages over SQL. That do not try to use it SQL for what it's not. Just put it in a way that everything can be exportable into SQL, and you can use it to run it in a system, like, for example, run it in Athena, make sure you can debug every single step. So, for example, if you're using a dedupe operation, that because your raw source can contain duplicated results, this is how what is doing underneath, right? So if you like what you see, go ahead and check this repo. We decided to open source it. We call it the dbt for the streaming data mesh. And yeah, I think it's amazing because what happened is that we made data for the first time first class here at Factorial. So I had a video and it didn't play well, but this is one of the few things that we do. So for example, we enrich the product of expenses where you can create cards for your employee trainings and things like that. And we enrich it with insights that help managers tell how much you're spending over budget and which kind of teams are using these kind of things. We use it for things like ENPS, like knowing the overall satisfaction of your company, and we can compare it with different, like same companies that maybe are in different sectors, or in the same sector in different countries and things like that, right? So see if the burnout risk is associated to your area or not. And more things, we can help them retain employees better by analyzing trends, and things like just counting headcount. This seems super simple, but people don't know like how many people are working on different teams once the organization grows. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we made data first class, and it's a great life. And I want you to leverage the partners that we have today to actually build this. For us in Factorial, data is no longer a cost center, right? It is not something that you have to account for, and that's it. We are impacting directly the customer, and we can have a positive return of investment. So it's a great life, and hope today you can learn a little bit more how to leverage these technologies to do it, because I really recommend that you can go ahead and implement it in your companies. So thank you so much. Joe, get it back to you. I don't know if we have questions in the chat. Maybe we can see our faces again. Yeah.
First of all, Mark, that was amazing. I learned a ton. I think personally for me, it's helpful to see like how like data engineering processes are kind of established over time. But that's wonderful. I've got a couple questions for you personally. So at the end, you kind of talked a little bit about data being a first-class citizen. And I'm wondering if you have any tips for companies who are looking to use data more as a first-class citizen, or like becoming more of a data-first company. How do you make that change internally? I think it can be difficult to get some executives on board or some team members on board with actually using data platforms.
I mean, I would say like the most challenging thing when you try to implement these kind of like paradigms or philosophies that are more backwardist, it's culture change. Like, do you really have a necessity for this? Like, this is something that this kind of technology is something that comes out of a necessity of the big techs very recently because of the huge amount of data. And they go and build this kind of technologies. So it makes available for us, so we can start thinking in, can I leverage this? Like, can I solve this analytical problem? Not with my current stack. Like, can we do it in a different way? And there are going to be some challenges associated, right? There's the DDD super extremists that would say that, maybe you are skipping and you are dividing a domain between two technology sets, which is true. You have like probably your web stack and your query in Tinybird or in your Delta transformations. That is true. That is going to happen. You need to think in, what's the trade-off? Like, is my data stack better suited to answer these kind of questions? Column database, which is basically the underlying technology, it's suited for this. Like, ask me questions and I will able to answer. So if that's important for you and you are able to take this trade-off, do it. For just data governance in general, think it as how much is costing you to maintain these models? Are you really getting a value out of that? For me, it was very difficult to go to the management and say, I need 3 more persons. I need more analysts to be able to deliver this management dashboard. That's not how I approach it anymore. I say, I need 3 more makers that will able to deliver products that we will able to sell. And when you hit the $sign and the euro sign, they start listening. And this is something that if it's a problem for you to communicate with higher management, that's a leverage that you can use.
I love that you said that. I feel like I talk to a lot of data engineering professionals, and they're focused a lot on like the infrastructure. And infrastructure is expensive, it's hard to set up, and it doesn't directly provide a lot of value. I think it's up to us as data engineers to like kind of translate that for the business, or kind of like help sell the problems the data infrastructure we're setting up is going to be solving. So I love that you said that, right? Like, $signs does work. Like, talking about like, we can make this feature, this can help drive business, or we can see some things or improve efficiencies or whatever, right? But I think it's up to us to try to help sell that vision of what it can do.
Yeah, because then everything else it's relative. Like
Yeah.
I remember starting conversations with Diego, and he doesn't start selling, hey, we have a new version of S3 that can do this. No, he starts
Yeah.
conversation saying, what's the main impact? Like, what do you want to build that is going to move the business forward?
Yeah.
And then you can start analyzing, okay, I can invest in this technology. I'm going to partner up with that other technology because I don't want to host like Kafka cluster myself, or I don't want to host a ClickHouse, or I don't want to be on premise. That is
Yeah.
where you leverage these partners that will speed up the time to market for this. But at the end, you need to know what's your market. What are you hitting? That's for me the most important thing.
I love that. And Mark, you couldn't have queued up a better segue over to Diego than that. Diego, do you want to talk a little bit more? Do you want to actually can we share Diego's screen?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Joel, for moderating this, and Mark. It's not the first time I am listening to you talking about how you do data in your company, and I'm really amazed by the ability you have to transform data to a business conversation,
Mm,
and in the way to approach like from infra to platform to data at Factorial
yeah.
is amazing. I really like it. Um, so yeah, so my name is Diego Rama. I work at AWS, and I've been here for almost 5 years. I look after B2B SaaS scale ups in EMEA South, and I try to help them to improve their technology stack, and also find ways to partner in to go together to go to market together to help them grow their business. For example, with Factorial, where they integrate our technology and technology from great partners like Tinybird and Confluent, is pretty easier, of course,
Mm.
to go to market together. Uh, and yeah, I'm very happy that we are like doing this event together. And I wanted to let you know a little bit about the marketplace, right? The AWS
Mm-hmm.
Marketplace, a place where you will be able to find the Confluent, Tinybird, and Factorial softwares,
Mm-hmm.
to find them, buy them, deploy them, and govern them using your AWS console. So the AWS Marketplace is like an e-commerce, right? It's like yeah, it's a marketplace where you will be able to find like thousands of softwares, not only software but also professional services and data products to implement them on your data products. Um, and it will be easier for you to find them and to govern the SaaS procurement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So the AWS Marketplace. Let's jump into the next slide and look at it in numbers. You will be able to find more than 13,000 transactable listings, more than 3,000 ISVs having their solution ready for you to be consumed.
Wow.
And today we have more than 330,000 active subscribers. So they are basically AWS customers that use the AWS Marketplace to purchase, to procure, to acquire third-party software. Um, yeah, and they can say you can see it built by AWS. This is helping, as I said, thousands of customers to also get to better discounts or better prices with AWS, because some way they are kind of increasing their AWS spend.
That's huge. This AWS cloud thing, I think you guys got something here. This is it's a pretty
It's a whole world, and it's very
yeah.
important to think, yeah, to think at AWS not only as a cloud provider or a tech provider, but think about the ecosystem, right? Like being
Mm-hmm.
able to buy and deploy Confluent using also private link to eliminate the DTO, data transfer out costs, or be able to deploy and integrate Tinybird into
Yeah.
your existing AWS stack, or even a business solution like Factorial, who they have their own solution
Mm.
available on the marketplace. It's huge. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's so much available on there. And I agree. A lot of data teams too can be helpful if you have a bunch of AWS credits or you just want to keep billing all in one place. It can be really helpful to check out the marketplace and just buy it directly in there.
Yeah.
This is great. I love it. Yeah, it makes it easy to scale. We use it. I love it. We'll be doing a demo today, actually using some AWS S3 as a data warehouse today. But yeah, it's great. I love it.
Nice.
Is that it? Is that all the slides there?
Yeah, I'm done. I wanted to let the stage for Factorial, for Mark, and also to you to learn a little bit more about the products.
I love it. Let's see here. Let's share my screen next. Mark, I think you did such a great job teeing me off here for all this stuff. Because I just want to do a quick intro and kind of talking about my view on kind of where the data landscape is for data engineers. First of all, we all know that our data needs are just increasing year after year. We're saving more data. We're doing more with that data. And the data teams and data engineers who are working with that data directly are under pressure to do more and more and more with more and more data. And as Mark talked about too, we're not only expected to do more with more data, we're expected to do it faster now, right? Mark was talking about needs to work with data that's not, days or hours old, it's milliseconds old, which is a lot. I think trying to set up and manage the infrastructure for that can be intimidating as a data professional. But I also want to talk quickly about our definition of what real-time means. Mark, you talked a little bit about freshness and latency. You're also being in the milliseconds, right?
Yeah.
Real-time can be a really buzzwordy kind of concept, and I think it really depends on from like company to company, product to product on what real-time means. But I'll just give I'm going to give the Tinybird definition of what we mean by that. But we talked about data freshness, which is how quickly you can use the data after you've actually captured it. So imagine you have like an IoT device and you're capturing data from that and sending that over to your data warehouse. Like how quickly can you actually start doing analytics on the data that you're capturing? And then of course, latency. So the data is in your database. How fast can you run queries on that data? And we think that it should be milliseconds. You should be working with data in milliseconds. But that's not all. I think those are the two that we talk about a lot. But there is more. For real-time analytics, we want to talk too about query complexity. Because I think, Mark, you've talked about this too with your business. You're handling lots of different data domains. So like time off, sick time, other like HR tasks. There's lots of different like data domains you're doing these really complex joins on to be getting these like doing real-time data analytics on. So the ability to do complex joins and queries and aggregations on that data, we think is important as well. And Mark, you also mentioned too, one of the key things you do with your data is, you mentioned this with the batch and streaming architecture, which I thought was fascinating. I haven't heard this before, but I loved it. You do the historical replays of data. So it sounds like you're doing like, you're managing the state of like, you can replay state of your application over time to rebuild your data state as rebuild your data over time. So working with historical data, we think is also huge for working with real-time analytics. And of course, too, just doing like time series data or historical, comparing time zone or time periods, we think is important as well with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then concurrency too. And Mark, a lot of the analytics you've been building too aren't just for internal facing dashboards, but user facing dashboards. So if someone's deployed Factorial, they want to be able to see what their workforce's, analytics are too. Which depending on the size of the company can be, hundreds or thousands of users kind of querying that same data set at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? You probably have massive concurrency.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like to just throw in a little bit more real use cases.
Yeah.
So probably like you can build any of the solutions with your current stack for for example, for us, is a company doesn't have much employees. Like,
Yep.
around 50, which is our average. Yeah, absolutely. Once it starts growing, the complexity starts growing too, and
Yep.
the historical data is more and more, and the complexity with the different domains to actually answer the questions, it gets more complicated. That makes these kind of solutions the key to actually scale it, and you need to do it in seconds. For us, it's important to be like in the same station. Like, I do a change,
Yep.
I assign one person to a team. I want to see how that affects the cost center. Like,
Yep.
that is important for managers to draft things and imagine how their business is going to be in few years time or few months time. And it doesn't make sense if your warehouse takes, like, warehouses are a good tool,
Yep.
but they're not designed for that. Their best case scenario is seconds.
Yeah.
Awesome. You can build, like, you can be patient, so you can have a very nice loading image. But worst case scenario is, I don't know how much my query is going to take. So that is something that that needs to reverse if you want to build something that is directly on the user.
I love that. Yep, we totally agree. And that's why we built Tinybird. So I just want to do a quick intro of what Tinybird is, and then I want to do a real life demo here too. But one of the things that we do best is doing data analytics at scale and empowering data teams. We can do things like transforming Kafka streams into APIs, and then doing complex joins and queries on different data sets. I'm going to be doing a demo today of using an S3 data warehouse and then doing joins on that with a real-time data stream coming from Kafka, and then publishing an API on top of that. And it sounds like, Marc, one of the key things you thought about was the developer experience and building an API for your developers to interact with the data products, but still in like a protected way. You're still kind of managing that layer so that people can't do anything too destructive or dangerous with that data. Which is like a key part of like building a data platform, which, by the way, I don't think I just want to hammer this home too. I think one of the key things that people don't consider too with building out data platforms is the publishing part and the developer experience internally. I find that people set up all this really expensive data infrastructure and no one uses it because it's too complicated for anyone to actually get any insights out of that. And it sounds like, Marc, you were able to like consider how to best you like leverage that data so people actually start using that internally. Is that right?
I mean, I would love to say yes, but it's a work in progress. I mean, I received some shitty comments of, hey,
Of course.
I have no idea where to look for the logs. I don't have access to this. And I assume part of it as is out of the, like, let's say, comfort zone or your main stack. And if you are going to be responsible of that data product, you want to be like have a good bet on the new technology that you're using. It's the same thing like for choosing a partner, right? Like, you want to be safe that partner is going to deliver. So I would love to say yes, we conquered that. It's a work in progress, and definitely we had conversations where say I'm not comfortable doing this, but at the end of the day is like this trade-off is were you able to deliver this? Yes, I built it in 2 months. For example, we delivered, since we launched this initiative, it was early this year. I think later December 2022 was the first data product, and we delivered 10 now in production, and there's more in the pipeline. So we deliver one per month, one feature, one key feature per month, and yeah, it's that speed that can be unmatchable and can overcome a lot of the friction, but friction will be there.
Oh, always. I mean, like, even in external facing products with lots of support and documentation, it can be tricky to like have a product mature enough that it's absolutely frictionless. And by the way, in data products too can be really challenging to write for too, because like you're offering up so much possibility with so much different data. It can be hard to like explain all that really quickly. I'm sure there's a learning curve on all of it, but I'm biased. I think you're on the right track too for like building a platform that makes it easier for data or like other teams besides your own to utilize that data and make use of it and provide value, you know?
Yeah. But I would say, though, that all these partners like Confluent,
Yeah.
Tinybird, and even Amazon, like what they're trying to do is lower this barrier, like make it
Yeah.
easier. Like what won't be easy is doing a complex join in streaming.
Yeah.
That is conceptually complex.
Yeah.
But the tools that you're using, we are getting there, right? That's
Yeah.
why we choose this kind of partners, because this is a joint journey. Like, and our succeed is their succeed. And this
Yeah.
is how we work, or at least how I like to operate and when choosing who to partner with.
Yeah, I love that. Well said. So yeah, I'm just going to go over what Tinybird is one more time. We're a real-time platform for data and engineering teams, and we allow you to ingest and unify different data sources at scale. So, right, we're a serverless database, and we can ingest either data streams, batch files, other databases, CSV files, whatever. Basically, we allow you to develop data with using just raw SQL and then publishing low latency API endpoints that can query those using that SQL in real time. And we're able to scale those API endpoints up to thousands of requests per second. And oftentimes, customers use Tinybird for user-facing data products. So real-time analytics for user-facing products is one of the ideal use cases for Tinybird. And we make it really easy to accelerate engineering teams. You don't have to worry about infrastructure, which makes it a lot easier to go faster. Marc mentioned this too, like being able to move quickly and show progress quickly is key. I personally think that for data teams, it's important for us to continually provide value back to the business. And I think one of the best ways you can do that is with quick wins and setting up something like Tinybird to like actually start showing some real life analytical use cases that can provide value is a great way to like show your value on your team and at your company. And the faster you can do that, the better it is for you and your team. All right, cool. We're a database. We're powered by ClickHouse under the hood. Marc mentioned this earlier, but we're a column-based database. And if you're new to the data analytical world, column-based databases are different than row-based databases you might be used to, and they are better for real-time or doing analytical queries. Yeah, okay, cool. So the title of this whole webinar here is From Kafka to API in Minutes. We like to put our money where our mouth is. And I also like to do a quick demo. I feel like talking about all this is really one thing, but seeing it is another. We've got about 10 minutes left here, so we don't really have much. We gotta get through this anyways, but I'm hoping to do this in 5 minutes. So we're actually going to do a couple things. One, I'm actually going to put let's see here if I can get I'm going to put a timer over the screen here. And we're going to hopefully get this under. I think we're going to shoot for 7 minutes. But what I'm going to do is actually connect to an S3, it's like a data warehouse, and import some data. And then I'm going to also connect to a Kafka stream. I'm going to write a query that unifies and joins those two together and then publish as an API in under 5 minutes. So if anyone's using Confluent or Kafka, whatever, this would be a great demo for you. All right, cool. Let's see here. Diego, Marc, feel free to chime in. If I mess up anything, yell at me. We'll figure it out together. I want everyone to just pray to the live demo gods here that nothing breaks. Always a risk. We've got like 3 redundant backups here in case something totally craps out here, but you never know. All right, cool. And anyone in the comments, let me know too. Feel free to ask any questions. We'll be doing a quick Q&A after this demo, and then we'll be wrapping it up here today. All right, Diego and Marc, you guys ready for me to try get this demo without any mistakes? All right. Cool. Me too. All right. Let's start the timer and let's go for we'll go for under 7 minutes. Should be good. I think I can usually do this under 5 though, but we'll give it a little bit of wiggle room here. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do here today is create a brand new data source. Data sources are the different databases and data sources you can bring into Tinybird. We got a bunch of native ones: Snowflake, BigQuery, Kafka, S3. I'm going to start with Kafka. So actually, I've got a topic set up already in Confluent. So I'm going to connect up to that one. And then you get to choose a topic from that server, that Confluent server. So I have one that's e-commerce demo. I'm going to make sure that's the right one. Yep. Go in. And you can choose whether you want to ingest all the records or just the latest ones. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of time and pull that in. I'm going to rename this to Kafka web events. These are web events that are like adding to cart, selling, viewing, that sort of thing, different products with a product ID. You can also note you can change the data type of these things or connect to a schema registry on Confluent Cloud and connect that automatically. You can also change things like the engine and the sorting key if you want to change how you're importing that in. And I'm going to hit create data source. This is going to be importing. I can't remember how many events are in here, but literally I had one that was at about like 5 billion. It was like a billion events and imported in just a couple, like under a second. This looks like this only has 22,000 rows, which is nothing. All right, so we have our Kafka web stream brought in. Next up, I'm going to bring in my S3 CSV file. So I have my AWS S3 bucket connected, and then I have to point it to my S3 CSV file. So this is acting like my data warehouse. And boom, make sure that that exists. Okay. There we go, found it. And next. And I'm just going to be ingesting it once. So we're just going to import that data. And same deal here. I'm going to import this, and we got the different names. This includes like product information. So our Kafka stream includes IDs, but no hydrated information about what that product actually is. This CSV file or my data warehouse kind of saves all that data. So I'm going to do S3 products. I'm going to create data source. And now let's, there we go. I'm going to refresh it, and hopefully we should see some data in here in just a second. All right, now it's still loading. That's okay. There we go. Now the data's loaded in here. All right, hey, we're doing great so far. No demo hasn't isn't tied yet. So next up, we have our data sources imported into Tinybird. Next thing we want to do is create a pipe that's able to join and unify that data together. So I'm going to just hit a create pipe button. Pipes are built like Jupyter Notebook nodes, so you can break down complex queries into discrete nodes. It makes it easier to read, it makes it easier to reason, it makes it easier to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. So I'll give you an example of what we're going to do here. So what we're going to be doing is writing a query that takes our stream of data, all of our click events happening, and then we're going to be joining that data with our data from our S3 data warehouse, so we can like hydrate that data. So instead of just an ID, we can actually have what the product is and some more information about it. And we're able to get that data in real time, and then we'll publish an API for that. Actually, we're going to be doing a ranking on those. So like, actually, this is for this example here. This is a e-commerce shop we built, and it's a real-time recommendation engine. And based on, I'll show you here, the number of clicks, views, and add to carts kind of shows you the trending items for that. So we're building that API endpoint that powers this here. All right, we are at 4 minutes. Let's quit messing around here. I'm going to first filter out the data, and so this is just going to be getting our categories for long sleeves. We just want to see all the product information for our long sleeve. Next up, I want to actually see the hits. Oops, that's 3 products. There we go. Type not found. Should retry the request. All right. Demo gods. Let's see here. Why is that not working? There we go. I don't know. Next up, we're going to be actually ranking those hits out. We're using our Kafka stream and filter. There we go. Filter now should exist. There we go. Perfect. And lastly, I just want to do a join on those two different endpoints and publish an API from that in real time. So almost there. Boom. So we're able to do a join. We have the ID, and now we have the name hydrated from the SV data in real time from Kafka. All right. And we're at 5 minutes 45. We're going to be sliding into home base here. And all we have to do to create an API endpoint is hit this green Create API button up here in the upper hand corner and choose the node that we actually want to publish. And in this case, it's just going to be that final node that joins everything together. And that's it. Woo! So that took 6 minutes. Thank you, Diego. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. It's always like a rush. I'm like, how do you explain everything and get it done in 6 minutes? If you didn't have to like talk it through, you can get this done so much faster. But we're able to connect two different data sources, write a complex query that joins those two together, and then publish an API endpoint in under 6 minutes. I just want to show this really fast too. So this publishes an API endpoint. If I pushes in the browser, you actually get a JSON request. And every time you refresh or requery this endpoint, it's showing the freshest data from that SQL query that we just wrote in the previous step. So every time we hit this, it's requerying that and getting the most up-to-date data in real time. Okay, cool. I'm just going to do one more thing, and then we're going to wrap up here. So I don't know if you noticed, on this filter step, I'm hard-coding long sleeve. Not super useful for an API endpoint. I'm sure, Mark, you don't want to write a separate pipe for every single different category or domain on your endpoints. But something you can do that's really cool, Tinybird, is setting up dynamic query endpoints. What that means is instead of hard coding long sleeve in there and just showing the results for that, you can write a query endpoint that allows you to pass through a dynamic parameter. So you can actually see this shows up now as 3 dynamic parameters. And if I go to the view API, you can actually see the, oops. Oh, it's freaking out about API endpoint. 1 second. S3 prod data. There we go. I'll just do S3 products. I think that's the right one. No. Is it lowercase S3? There we go. Yep, great. And now if we go to view API endpoint, you should be able to see the dynamic parameter up here. Where is that? Oh, it's because it's not in there. But if you pass through the category for those, you could view different endpoints besides just the long sleeve t-shirts. Whew! All right. And we're at the end of the hour here too. So that's our little Tinybird demo. Makes it super easy to use Tinybird at scale and building out data products and doing complex joins. Okay, let's see here. Cam, do you want to actually should we do a quick Q&A? I know, Mark, you got to get going here too. We probably have time for one question before we wrap up here today.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the comments have any questions? Otherwise, or I have a question here too. It's here. Actually, Mark, I do have a question for you. In your humble opinion, when do you think teams should start considering out use cases for data platforms? Because I feel like a lot of teams are only concerned with setting the infrastructure and not concerned with kind of how it's going to be used. At what point do you start considering analytical use cases for your platform?
Yeah, probably it's going to change from company to company. Like probably new companies can get going with this out of the box. But usually, so there's these data maturity steps that probably you want to go through. So the first step is like, do not try to build a cathedral and build a super lake house just to answer few data that you can do it out of your database. But there's going to be a point where you need to first start capturing historical data because databases usually maintain the last state. And you need to start solving these internal facing analytics, right? And common stacks will help you on that direction. But there's going to be a point where that's not enough, like where you see, oh, that would be amazing if that dashboard was showing in the app directly. And you don't want to, I mean, you can, and there are partners that will tell you that you can do that with those dashboards, but they're not designed for that. What is designed is to just use that JSON and leverage it inside your application to enrich the experience. So for me, the trigger was, are we going to do this site analytics? So it's a Factorial insight and that's a different product? Or are we going to do this contextual analytics, right? Where I'm going to show the right information to the manager to make that decision in that right time. And that has to be with the type of session he's having. Are you evaluating employees? So you need to understand how are they feeling? Or are you in this end of the year and planning the budget for next year? So it really makes sense to mature. And when you hit that, like that, you have these internal facing analytics all figured out, and people are starting exploring this data, and basically they have their notebooks and they want to ship this kind of notebooks somehow magically. Then when you start leveraging these kind of technologies.
I love that. I love that you meant. I love the cathedrals of infrastructure too analogy. I get the impulse to want to have everything set up perfectly for this massive data workloads, but like I feel like it's still up to us to try to like push forward and build stuff on top of that while we're establishing our infrastructure. It never ends.
You don't want to be this police, right? You want to be more like a judge. Like I feel like central data management solutions, they are like that. Like, no, you cannot do that. You cannot access this data and that. And that is like, you need to have something like that for security reasons and for like we work with very sensible data. That's why we also have some layers where we are not sending all our customers' information. Like we just filter it before leaving our safe space. But you want to be more like a judge. Like you work with the village, right? You work with your people in creating these rules. Like, hey, how do you want to operate? Like, how do you want to scale Factorial? And set the rules. Like, well, you should probably like make your products interoperable. And this where you leverage this kind of contracts and things like that. Basically, for a good community, not for just you should obey me because I'm the CDO. It doesn't work. I mean, probably it works for corporates,
sure,
but I'm pretty sure that they're not having beers afterwards.
I totally agree. All right, we should probably wrap up here today. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Diego and Marc, for joining us today. I learned a ton. I hope everyone else who's watching this learned a ton too. Do you guys want to do any plugs? Where should people follow you? What should people check out if they loved hearing from me today? Maybe Diego, do you want to get started, and then we'll do Marc?
Yeah, so I don't really use social media, but I do have a LinkedIn account, so
great.
I'm reachable there. Yeah, and happy to reply to any question or anything. Yeah, happy to do so.
Amazing.
You just hit another socially awkward guy. I just deleted all my media, all my social media, but I kept LinkedIn. So yeah, hit me at, it's pretty straightforward. It's Marc Gonzalez, Factorial. You should find me there. I'm usually hanging around like data conference. So please go ahead and reach me whenever you see me.
Yeah, Marc, you've been getting out there. I've been so impressed with all the engagement or like all the events you've been doing recently. Keep it up.
Yeah, that was a goal for this year.
Good for you. You're doing it.
The thing is, I wanted to say that just as a shout out of all the audience, like I basically put myself in these kind of positions because other people like me, when I was younger and eager to learn, they went and shared. And this was the goal for this year, right? To
Yeah.
go and share how you can do things differently and what worked and what didn't. And hopefully today I did a good job. So that's why I'm doing, like, just to give back to the audience that once gave to me.
I love that. I totally agree.
Amazing.
But you,
That's what I love about
you're
tech.
social too.
No. I love it.
Yeah.
This is I love doing this stuff. But I totally agree. I mean, that's like part of this open source philosophy of like tech. I feel like in giving back and being open and transparent about things that work and don't work is what I think makes our industry special. And I love that you're giving back to that, Marc. That's awesome. Well, amazing. I think you guys should all follow them. Go check them out. Go make sure you check out Amazon, AWS Marketplace. Check out Factorial. Great stuff. And keep an eye on Marc. I think he's going to be doing amazing things here. And of course, we're Tinybird. We have a free forever developer tier. If you want to check out Tinybird or start building out data analytics products, for sure you should start doing that. Just go to tinybird.co or join us on our Slack community. We have a great place to get your answers or questions answered or whatever. All right, cool. Let us know if you like this. We would love to do more of these in the future. Marc, I would love to do more stuff with you in the future too. I think you're doing great stuff. And of course, Diego is amazing too. But I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you so much.
And till next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
And we'll have you guys